start to rename and reposition ourselves where we need to be. Having said that, I think that, you know, if we can get commercial businesses rolling in terms of real estate, not just the homes, because I seem to suggest that there's some strip shopping centers and storefronts that are abandoned in the neighborhoods. We should look at maybe going in and seeing what it would take to acquire those. And then, because there are those people who have salons that have small businesses, but they don't have anywhere to locate. I think one would be very surprised at how many small businesses may become your tenant in your real estate projects there. It's something to look at very seriously.
Yeah, I love that idea a lot. Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity. I just, when I look at our community and you look at our neighborhoods, you know, some people see devastation. I see opportunity. You know, you know, the right kind of vision. There's so many wonderful things that can be done. And I want to ask you about something. I think it's important for us to cover this as well. I think that with the success that you and your brother have had, and the great work that you've done, I think it's very easy for, say, a young brother, young sister to look at you or myself or anybody, and it almost seems like it's so far away. You know, like well, their lives are perfect. They've done it all. They don't make mistakes. You know, and we know that that's not true, right? And so I'd be curious to know if you could talk about some of your tougher moments, if you will, maybe times where maybe you failed, you tried to do something that didn't work out, maybe times where you were sad, times where you ran into pitfalls, and how you were able to keep the mindset to continue to move forward in those situations. Can you speak to that?
It's a fabulous question, but let me preface it this way. You know, I would ask the question to everyone watching and listening, what would your life be like if you could eliminate the fear of failure? So if we take those two words and we break them down, first word being fear. Fear is just a mental construct. It's not of nature. It's not grass growing. It's not the wind blowing. When you were born perfect. You had no fear. Fear is something that you allow to enter into your psyche. So why can't we just take it away as we've allowed it to come in? Second word, failure. I don't believe in that word at all. You may ask why. Every day when you wake up, you're given 86,400 seconds. That's 24 hours for those math majors out there. And the moment you think of the moment, it's already gone. Very existential concept. Now, if that's the case, then if you have a marriage that didn't work out, if you had a business that didn't work out, was that a failure, or did you learn something from it? If you take the position that you learned something from it, then you would define it this way. It is an experience where the outcome wasn't as I would have liked, but it was an experience. So the first thing we have to do is take away the guilt of not being able to succeed in something that you're doing. Because if you do that, you'll continue to look in the rearview mirror the rest of your life. Now, you wouldn't drive your car by looking in the rearview mirror, would you? So why would you live your life that way? And in those 86,400 seconds, if you're busy thinking about something you have no control over, then what are you doing? You're wasting your existence. That's where the actionaire comes in, because you see the actionaire has eliminated the fear of failure. Now, one of the other things I'll ask an audience, and I'm gonna still get to your question, is, you know, how many of you think outside the box? I'll ask everyone to raise your hand if you think outside the box. Of course, we can't see you because we're virtual right now. However, if you raise your hand, I want to spank you. Why? Because if you're living outside the box, doesn't that presume that you are in a box? You see, the words mean things, and your psychological positioning in your head, can eliminate and limit you from proceeding in doing or taking action. So we have to be a no-box thinker. We have to eliminate the fear of failure in order to be an actionaire. Now, yes, I've had a number of businesses, especially during the downturn in the economy, the '08 downturns, '09, where I found that Bank of America, jumped all over every business out here, including ours. And my brother and I probably owed $115, $120 million. Now that's a lot of money that people would say, well, dang, if they loaned you that much, how much are you worth? Well, you could do the math. It's usually 10%. So the point is, those assets, when they were going out of business, Bank of America, or as some people put it, Bank on America back in those days, they were calling loans. They were saying you're supposed to, they want you to refinance. Well, if the bank isn't refinancing you, the Bank of America is not, who else is? The answer is no one, because everybody was suffering. What that did then was that forced us to sell many of our assets connected to that loan at deep discounts. And that put us in a very interesting spiral. Now, we had taken 3 companies public, so we had access to some capital, cash. And we were in the throes of selling other businesses like a tower company and some other things. And what we were able to do was save certain assets, but we had to jettison certain assets at the same time. Does that hurt? Well, it depends on how you look at it. Sometimes you have to recognize, well, where did you come from? And look where you are. Can you take the position that I've eaten bologna sandwiches, for lunch? Do I want to go back to it? No. Can I go back to it if I have to? Yes. So as long as you take the position that, you can, if you look at from whence you've come and recognize that you were fine then, and you may be in a way financially better now, but can you continue to exist? So what you also have to do during that time is find ways to protect your assets. You have to look at, how do you move assets from one position to another position to protect it from the reaches of others who may have the ability to attach. And so when you have a variety of resources, and one of the things I encourage people who need to do it is to recognize that bankruptcy is a very, very good thing. In our community, we treat it as a stigma, but if Trump does it, or if General Motors does it, or if Bank of America does it, oh, how clever are they, you see? Well, bankruptcy was originally set up legislatively for poor people to be able to get a fresh start. But it was established for poor people, but it can be utilized by any other definition of a person. And a corporation is definition, but legally is a person. So therefore, bankruptcy becomes a very unique and a very good tool for people to use. Ignore these folks that are saying, oh, about bankruptcy, I feel so sorry for them. No. In business, as capitalists, as entrepreneurs, as actionaires, if somebody does that, I'll say, how clever. Good move, smart move. Use the system to your advantage and to your benefit. Ignore these other people who just aren't smart enough to know the difference and proceed on with your successes. So that's how we handle the downturns. That's how we handle the outcomes that aren't as we would have liked. We take the knowledge from them. We become very strategic. We fight through it, and we come back stronger than ever.
Okay, so did everybody catch that? There's a reason why bankruptcy is called asset protection or bankruptcy protection, right? It's not a stigma in business. And I agree with you. You hear the conversations when I guess when you have the critics of Trump, or it's fine, whatever. Just so you know, Dr. Roberts, in this space, I encourage people to be I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, as long as you're black. You know, that's what I say. I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, but you hear a lot of people say, oh, he's a bad businessman, he declared bankruptcy, or oh, he's a bad businessman, he didn't make money, or he lost money when he did XYZ. And I think that people who talk that way are not typically business people, and they don't understand the strategy behind how businesses operate. And I love that. And I also love what you said about just asset protection in general.